There are some mornings when you wake up and the quiet feels heavier than usual. Not in a bad way necessarily, but in a way that makes you stop and notice it. Maybe you reach for your phone, scroll through nothing in particular, and then set it down again because nothing there is what you're really looking for. And in that stillness, something in your heart asks a question you've been avoiding. You wonder if you've missed your window. You wonder if love, the kind that lasts, the kind that feels like home, has somehow passed you by while you were busy surviving. I want to speak to that part of you today, not with easy answers or hollow comfort, but with something I've learned after years of walking through my own seasons of confusion and clarity. God does not work on the timelines we create in our minds. Thing we think is too late, or too unlikely, or too far outside of what we expected is exactly where He has been working all along. I've sat with people who told me they had given up on the idea of deep, lasting companionship. Some of them were in their 40s, some in their 50s, some older still. They said the same thing in different words. I thought it would have happened by now if it was going to happen at all. And yet, I've watched some of those same people find connection in the most unexpected places. Not through formulas or strategies, but through something quieter. Through becoming. Through healing. Through a kind of softening that happens when you stop performing for love and start becoming available to it. If you're watching this, I don't know what your story looks like before and it didn't end the way you hoped. Maybe you've loved deeply and lost, and the scar tissue around your heart has made you cautious. Maybe you've never quite let someone in all the way, and you're not even sure why. Or maybe, and this is something fewer people talk about, you've noticed that the person who stirs something in you isn't who you expected. They're younger, maybe by a decade or more, and that has made you second-guess everything. You've wondered what people would think. You've questioned your own judgment. You've told yourself that it can't possibly work, that the gap in years is a gap in understanding, a gap in experience, a gap that leads nowhere but heartbreak. But let me ask you something gently. Where is it written that love must follow a formula of sameness? Where in the scriptures does God say that He only works through what is convenient or predictable or socially comfortable? Because the more I read the stories of the people He used throughout history, the more I see the opposite. He worked through widows and foreigners, through shepherds who became kings and kings who became wanderers. He brought together people from different tribes, different nations, different circumstances. Ruth was a foreigner who gleaned in the fields of a man older than her, and from that unlikely union came a lineage that led all the way to David, and from David to Christ. Boaz did not dismiss her because of where she came from or how she arrived in his life. He honored her character, her faithfulness, and the providence that placed her in his path. And the story didn't just bless them, it blessed generations. I don't tell you that to make a rule out of an exception. I tell you that to loosen the grip of assumptions you may be holding too tightly. God is not bound by your expectations. He is not limited by the age printed on a birth certificate. He is not confused by the numbers you keep calculating in your head when you imagine what your life might look like with this person beside you. He looks at the heart. He always has. Samuel learned that lesson when he went to anoint a king and kept looking at the outward appearance, the height and stature, the obvious choices. But God corrected him. Man looks at the outer form, he said, but the Lord looks at the heart. That principle doesn't just apply to leadership, it applies to love. The person you're meant to walk with may not match the picture you drew in your mind years ago. And that's okay, because the picture you drew was limited by what you knew then. God's picture is drawn from what He knows eternally. Now, I want to be careful here. I'm not telling you that every unexpected attraction is from God. I'm not telling you to rush into something just because it feels intense, or different, or exciting. Wisdom still matters. Discernment still matters. The fruit of the Spirit includes self-control, and that self-control is not meant to suppress love, it's meant to guide it. But I am telling you not to dismiss something beautiful, simply because it arrives in a package you didn't expect. Sometimes, the younger person who enters your life is not a distraction. Sometimes they are a disruption, yes, but a holy one. Assumptions. Makes you grow and invites you into a version of yourself you had forgotten was possible. You see, there's a certain deadening that can happen when you've been alone for a long time. Not a dramatic collapse, but a quiet narrowing. You stop expecting new things. You settle into routines not because you love them, but because they're safe. And somewhere along the way, you stop believing that your story has more chapters left. But what if the entrance of this person into your life, even the mere possibility of them, is God's way of reminding you that you're still alive, that your heart still has room, that love is not a season that has passed, but a river that's still flowing, waiting for you to step back into the current. I know it's scary. I know there are practical concerns about what your family might say, what your friends might whisper when you're not in the room. You think about whether you'll be able to keep up, whether the difference in energy or stage of life will create friction. You wonder if they'll still want you 10 years from now, 20 years from now, when the gap feels more visible than it does today. Those are real questions, and I would never ask you to ignore them. But I would ask you this: have you brought them to God? Not as reasons to run away, but as honest prayers. Lord, is this from you? Lord, am I seeing clearly? Lord, if this is a path you're preparing, show me how to walk it with integrity. Because God is not bothered by your questions. He is not offended by your caution. He simply wants to be invited into the process. When you invite him, he has a way of making things clearer. Not all at once, but step by step, like a lamp illuminating the path just far enough to take the next step. That's how Psalm 119 describes his word. A lamp to my feet and a light to my path. Not a floodlight that reveals everything at once, but a steady presence that walks with you. You don't have to figure it all out tonight. You don't have to make a decision this week or this month. You just have to stay open, stay soft, stay prayerful, and trust that if something is truly from God, it will not be rushed or forced. It will unfold with a kind of peace that passes understanding. Let me take a moment to speak to something else that might be stirring in you. It's possible that part of your resistance to this connection isn't about them at all. It's about you. Somewhere along the way, you started believing that you're too old, too worn, too marked by the past to be truly loved again. You carry stories that you've never fully told anyone. You carry failures that you've analyzed 1,000 times, but never fully released. You carry regrets that visit you in the quiet hours and whisper that you don't deserve what you're hoping for. And when someone younger enters the picture, someone who seems unburdened by your history, someone with an openness that feels almost foreign, you assume they couldn't possibly choose you if they knew the whole truth. But I need you to hear something. Your past is not your identity. Your mistakes are not your name. The things you regret are real, yes, and they matter, yes, but they are not the final word over your life, because the final word belongs to God. And His word says that He makes all things new, not just some things, all things. That includes your story, that includes your heart, that includes your capacity to receive love without sabotaging it with shame. When the Apostle Paul wrote to the Corinthians, he reminded them that some of them had lived in ways that seemed disqualifying. He listed things that could have ended their stories right there. But then he said something extraordinary, and such were some of you. Were, past tense. Because in Christ, transformation is not a theory. It's a testimony. You are not who you were. You are who you are becoming. And who you are becoming might just be ready for something you thought was out of reach. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you know that this is a place where we try to speak truth gently. We're not here to hype you up with empty promises or manipulate your emotions. We're here to walk alongside you, to offer perspective, and to point you toward the kind of peace that only comes from aligning with God's heart. So if this message is landing somewhere deep in your spirit, I want to invite you to stay with us. Subscribe to Angel's Decode channel if you haven't already. Not because we have all the answers, but because we're committed to asking the right questions together. And if you feel like leaving a comment today, let it be something that blesses someone else who might be listening. A word of encouragement, a prayer, a reminder that none of us are walking this road alone. Now let me speak to something more practical. Because faith without action is incomplete, and sometimes the action required is internal before it's external. If you're feeling drawn towards someone younger, one of the most important things you can do right now is work on yourself. Not to become impressive, not to earn someone's affection, but to become whole. Whole people attract healthy relationships. Fragmented people tend to attract chaos. That's not a judgment, it's a pattern. And patterns can be changed when we become aware of them. Take an honest inventory of your inner life. Are there wounds you've been carrying that still control how you show up in intimacy? Are there fears that make you pull away every time someone gets close? Are there habits of thought, ways of talking to yourself, that undermine your confidence before you even try? God is in the business of restoration, but He often works through our cooperation. He'll meet you halfway, but you have to take the first step. And that first step might be as simple as saying, "Lord, I'm open. I'm willing to look at the places I've been avoiding. I'm willing to let you do the work I've been resisting." That kind of prayer changes things. Not because the words are magical, but because the posture is honest. And God responds to honesty the way a good father responds to a child who finally admits they need help. He moves toward you. He comes closer. He begins to heal what you've been hiding. Let me also say this: difference between desire and desperation. Desire is a holy thing when it's surrendered. It's the ache for companionship that God wove into humanity from the very beginning, when He said it's not good for man to be alone. That ache is not a flaw. It's a feature. It's a sign that you were made for connection. But desperation twists that ache into something grasping. It makes you settle for less than you deserve. It makes you overlook red flags. It makes you rush into things that aren't ready. And it often stems from a belief that you're incomplete without another person. I want to challenge that belief gently. You are not incomplete. You are whole in Christ. A relationship may enrich your life, but it does not complete it. When you operate from wholeness, you show up differently. You're not needy, you're generous. You're not possessive, you're present. You're not performing, you're real. And that kind of presence is magnetic. It draws people in because it's so rare. Most people are walking around with masks on, editing themselves for approval. But when you've done the inner work, when you've let God handle the places that used to run you, you can show up without pretense. And that's the kind of person someone wants to build a life with. Age becomes less relevant when authenticity is the foundation. Now I want to speak to patience, because this is where a lot of people struggle. You feel something stirring. You sense that God might be doing something new, and you want it to happen now. You want clarity. You want confirmation. You want the person to show up with a neon sign that says, "This is your person." But that's rarely how God works. He's not in a hurry, And there's a reason for that. The waiting is not wasted. In the waiting, he's doing things you can't see. He's preparing them. He's preparing you. He's aligning circumstances. He's removing obstacles. He's building a foundation that can bear the weight of what's coming. If you try to rush it, you might end up with something beautiful on the outside, but shaky underneath. And the first storm will expose the cracks. But if you let God do it His way, in His timing, the thing that gets built is sturdy, lasts. It grows. James wrote that the testing of your faith produces patience, and patience has a perfect work, so that you may be mature and complete, lacking nothing. That means the waiting isn't a punishment. It's part of the plan. It's producing something in you that couldn't be produced any other way. And when you finally step into what God has been preparing, you'll be grateful for the waiting. You'll realize it made you ready. I know that's hard to hear in the middle of the waiting. I know sometimes it feels like nothing is happening. But let me assure you of this. God is always at work, even when you can't see it. He's working behind the scenes. He's orchestrating details you don't even know about. He's moving hearts, shifting circumstances, closing wrong doors, and opening right ones. Your job is not to figure it all out. Your job is to trust. And trust isn't passive. Trust is active. It's waking up each day and choosing to believe that God is good, even when the evidence is invisible. It's going about your life with purpose, while holding your desires loosely. It's praying without demanding. It's hoping without grasping. That's the kind of trust that honors God, and it's the kind of trust He responds to. Let me address one more layer before we come to a close. If this person, this younger person who has caught your attention, is truly someone God is preparing for you, then the path will open in a way that's healthy. You won't have to manipulate. You won't have to force. You won't have to convince them through pressure or performance. You'll walk forward, and doors will open, not always easily, but clearly. There will be a mutuality. They'll move toward you as you move toward them. They'll show interest, not just in the idea of you, but in the reality of you. They'll be curious about your heart, your history, your hopes. And when they learn about the age difference, it won't be a stumbling block for them. It'll be a detail, not a disqualifier. If that's not what's happening, if you're doing all the pursuing and they're doing all the retreating, that might be God's way of protecting you from something that isn't meant to be. Not every open door leads where you want to go. Some doors are open to test your discernment, not to invite you in. So pay attention, your desires, but to the signals, to the fruit, to the peace or lack of it in your spirit. And be willing to let go if God asks you to. Because sometimes the answer is not this one, but the next one. And letting go of the wrong thing is how you make room for the right thing. As we bring this time to a close, I want to remind you of something simple but powerful. God sees you. Right now in this moment, He sees you. He sees the longing you've carried. He sees the prayers you've whispered when no one else was listening. He sees the parts of you that you've hidden in shame and the parts you've protected in fear. He sees it all. And He loves you still. Not once you get it together. Not once you figure things out. You become more spiritual, or more healed, or more lovable. Right now, as you are. His love for you is not based on what you bring to the table. It's based on who He is. And who He is love. He's not looking at you with disappointment. He's not shaking His head at your confusion. He's not withholding good things to teach you a lesson. He's for you. He's working on your behalf. And whatever is ahead, whether it's this relationship or another, whether it's soon or further down the road, He will walk it with you. You are not doing this alone. You have a God who draws near to the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. You have a God who counts the hairs on your head and knows the number of your days. In your heart, and then promise to guide you step by step until you arrive there. That's the kind of God you're walking with, and that changes everything. So take a deep breath. Let your shoulders drop. Unclench the fist you've been making without realizing it, and say this, not as a formula, but as an act of surrender. Lord, I trust you. I don't understand everything. I don't know how this will unfold, but I trust you, and I believe that you are making a way. Not my way, your way, and your way is better. That's enough for today. That's enough for this moment. Thank you for being here. Thank you for giving your attention to something that matters. I hope this message met you where you are and gave you something to carry forward. If it did, consider sharing it with someone who might need to hear the same words. Not for numbers or metrics, but because love shared is love multiplied. And if you're new to this community, welcome. This is a space where we talk about real things with real faith, and we'd love to have you stay. Until next time, may you walk in peace, may you rest in trust, and may the God who sees you continue to lead you into everything He has prepared for you.